Hey guys, I'm Justin Burkholz. Welcome to my channel and thank you so much for stopping by. Today's video is about my experience doing Wim Hof Method breathwork every day for the last year and all of the ways that has radically transformed my life. I'm super excited about this one because it really has dramatically improved my quality of life, and this is something that anyone can quickly and easily implement into their daily routine. But before we get to the good stuff, if you're interested in mysticism, history of religion, spiritual practices, or science-based protocols for improving longevity, health, and wellness, and want to support my effort to bring this content in an accessible format to a wide audience for free here on YouTube, make sure to hit subscribe and consider supporting me on Patreon or with a one-time donation. Thank you for your support in making this possible. Links can be found below. Now let's get into it. So first of all, what is Wim Hof Method? If you've been following the health and wellness scene for the last few years, chances are that you've heard of Wim Hof. He and his method have exploded in popularity in recent years, and for good reason. His method focuses on three key practices: breathwork, cold exposure, and meditation. But for today's video, my focus will be solely on his core guided breathwork practice and all of the ways that it has benefited my life. His video, which guides you through the 11-minute practice, is one of the most watched videos on YouTube with over 57 million views currently, and I will post a link to it down below. So what exactly is it? Wim Hof Method breathwork is a type of breathwork known as cyclic hyperventilation. It involves cycles of rapid, deep breathing, followed by long periods of retention or breath holding. What this does is it causes your body to produce a very large amount of adrenaline, increasing your blood flow and heart rate, and then all of a sudden you stop and hold your breath. And as you do this, you can feel your heartbeat pulsing intensely at first and then start to slow down. Most people also experience a deep meditative state of calm and relaxation, even if they have a very difficult time getting to that state through typical forms of meditation or other meditative practices. This is the reason that I now recommend that people start with breathwork before moving into any other forms of meditation or contemplative practice. It can quickly and reliably induce the kinds of altered states that is typically the goal of those practices, but which can be very difficult for modern practitioners living in today's chaotic world of distractions to achieve. This gives you a glimpse of what you are shooting for, and once you know where to aim, it is so much easier to hit your target. Anyways, the standard version of the Wim Hof Method involves 3 cycles of deep, rapid breathing and then holding, and takes just about 11 minutes to complete, making it a very easy habit to implement. Now I want to talk a little bit about why I implemented this habit into my life and why I am so excited to share it with you all. Back in October of 2018, I moved back to California where I was born. I had spent over a decade living in the cool, clean air of Seattle area, and when I moved back to the dry dustiness of Southern California, I started experiencing allergy and asthma symptoms. As much as I love it here, the air quality is not great. So I started taking allergy medication seasonally to try and alleviate those symptoms. Then one day I had a serious asthma attack, and I did not have any inhalers or medication or anything to treat it at the time, and I ended up in the emergency room. They took good care of me. I went to a doctor, got a prescription for an inhaler after that, had them test my breathing and lung capacity, and thought that would be the end of it. But over time it seemed like my breathing and allergies were getting worse, not better. And at the height of the first wave of COVID, breathing difficulty was something everyone dreaded, and it was causing me a lot of anxiety. It was around that time that I started having panic attacks for the first time in my life. My quality of life was deteriorating. A year passed by and I went back to my doctor for my annual checkup. Since I'd complained about my asthma the previous year, they had done some testing and they were able to repeat those tests and compare my results. It turned out that I was getting worse. Based on my doctor's notes, I reported using my inhaler more often than the year before, and my breathing and lung capacity was still in decline. My doctor recommended that I go see some specialists to see if they could determine what was causing this and if something could be done about it, which I did. However, that ended up being pretty unhelpful. They didn't really find anything. That was when I decided that I needed to look into it myself and see if there was anything unconventional that I could do on my own to improve my breathing and my quality of life. That was when I remembered something I had come across years before but never actually tried out, which of course was the Wim Hof Method. My first exposure to the Wim Hof Method was actually his 30-day cold shower challenge. I was living in Seattle at the time, and in fall and winter in Seattle can be very dark and cold and difficult. And I was interested in something that could help me handle the cold. The results were impressive, and I'll talk more about that in a later video. But at that time I never tried out the breathwork or looked into Wim Hof any deeper than that. I did the cold showers, they worked, and that was that. Flash forward about 5 years, and while I was researching ways to improve my breathing, I came across him again. Now, I'd already tried out a few other breathwork protocols and had some decent results, but none of them had felt quite right for what I needed at the time. But since I recognized the name and had prior success with the cold showers, I was very interested in trying out his breathwork. The first time I tried it, I knew. This was it. This was exactly what I had been looking for and what my body needed. So I decided right then and there that I was going to make this non-negotiable in my life. In order to make sure I did it every day, I did some research on forming habits, and I came across the work of two amazing people named James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, and Dr. Andrew Huberman, creator of the Huberman Lab podcast. If you are not familiar with either of them, I highly recommend looking them up after this video. I ended up deciding that the best way to implement this new habit into my life was to make it a rule that I had to do my breath work before I drank my morning cup of coffee. It was difficult at first, but it worked. This is when things got really interesting. I had succeeded in forming the habit of doing the Wim Hof breathing every morning, but I really didn't know if it would actually help with my asthma and allergies. Turns out that it did, but it did so much more than that. After about a month, I no longer even needed my inhaler or allergy medication. I've now gone through an entire year and didn't even need seasonal medication a single time. Now, I cannot guarantee that anyone else will have these results, and please, obviously, consult your doctor before stopping any prescribed medication, but the benefits didn't stop there. I also noticed huge improvements in energy, mood, and focus, and I was able to use it as a sort of anchor habit around which I could implement other beneficial habits. Amazingly, it also seemed to help with my chronic heartburn by relieving tension in my core. My voice became clearer and more resonant as well, and every day I could feel my back kind of straightening itself out and aligning itself more and more, almost magically, as I held my breath during the long periods of retention. I felt like it was bringing vitality and vigor back to my entire body, starting with my lungs and circulatory system. So there were quite a few physical benefits, and these alone would make it worthwhile, in my opinion. I mean, I basically don't have asthma anymore. But amazingly, and surprisingly, to me at least, there were some remarkable mental benefits as well. And these benefits have even been documented by scientific research. One of the lesser known benefits of the Wim Hof Method breathwork, or really any form of cyclic hyperventilation, is that it trains your nervous system to handle periods of really high activation, which would normally be very stressful and anxiety producing, possibly even overwhelming. And it teaches you to be able to maintain control and focus in those states. What this means is that you become much better able to manage high-stress situations like public speaking or test taking, and whatever happens to be particularly challenging for you. This can be completely life-changing on its own. Remember those panic attacks that I mentioned earlier? After a couple months of doing this practice every day, I felt one coming on one night. I started to get tremors, my heart rate and breathing sped up, and I could feel the panic coming on. So I went into my bedroom and I laid down, I closed my eyes, and something really unexpected and magical happened. I laid down, and when I closed my eyes, I remembered the moment in the breathwork when I stop and hold my breath after doing the deep, rapid breathing. I didn't try to remember this, mind you. It just came to me. I remembered the sense of calm and peace that I feel in those moments, and I remembered the feeling of my heartbeat slowing down. And immediately my body stopped shaking. My heartbeat started to slow down, and my panic attack ended before it even really took off. And in the 9 months that have passed since, I have not had a single panic attack or even the start of one. So what happened when I did Wim Hof breathing every day for a year? Well, I no longer struggle with asthma, allergies, or panic attacks, and no longer need any medication to treat them. My chronic heartburn has subsided almost entirely, and my ability to function under stress has improved. My voice is clearer, and for the first time in my life, I have the ability to actually sing. I no longer get dizzy or lightheaded when standing up due to the improvements in circulation. I was able to cut back on my caffeine intake and still maintain the same level of energy or higher throughout the day. And I'm actually excited to get up in the morning because I get to get high on my own supply, as Wim Hof says. Because I didn't say this before, but it just feels really good. So I highly recommend trying it out for yourself. Once again, the link to the video guide can be found below. And if you're interested in learning more about the science of breathwork, other forms of daily breathwork practices, how to implement new habits into your life, and how to choose which one is best for you based on your current physical and mental temperament, pick up a copy of the first volume of my March Magic Journal, Contemplations, which covers all of that and more. That link can also be found below. And once again, thank you so much for visiting my channel and supporting my work. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the little notification bell so you don't miss any of the other upcoming content. This really does help me out. And if you would like to support me on Patreon or with a one-time donation, those links are found below as well. Thanks again, and see you again soon.